name's Chris Tang. I'm a professor at the UCLA Center for Global Management. My background is mainly focused on the global supply chain issues.
I know that recent escalations, US and China trade tensions. What is the latest and what's happening?
The trade war between the US and China has been going on for round number one. We started with 20% tariffs, but then tit for tat kind of game went on.
We're seeing significant reshoring efforts in American manufacturing.
If I need factory engineers in China, I can fill multiple football fields. In the US, you only fill one room. How can you compete?
Let's talk about the economic impact.
Inflation is unfortunately coming up. Which person will buy iPhone for $6,000? If history repeats itself, we in big.
All right, Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your background?
Good morning, everyone. My name's Chris Tang. I'm a professor at the UCLA Center for Global Management. I've been a professor at UCLA for 40 years. So my background is mainly to focus on the global supply chain issues. And as we know that now with the tariffs and also with the supply chain resilience issues, so I think I've never been busier.
Right. No, I agree. And I saw something. So let's start off. I know that recent escalations, US and China trade tensions, they did some proposed tariffs, potentially reaching 145%. I know they talked about bringing those down now, potentially to 50%. What is the latest and what's happening? If you can give us some updates as far as you know.
Well, I think that the trade war between the US and China has been going on for quite a few number of years. It began with Trump round number one. Round number one, we started with 20% tariffs, but then later on that it's escalated further. And then President Biden kept the same tariffs, except the EV was 100%. Then when President Trump came in the second time, and he wants to increase it further because he thinks that the trade deficit between US and China was too big. So he said, well, maybe you need to increase the tariffs such that maybe China can reduce the tariffs and Chinese will buy more American goods as a result to reduce the trade deficit. But then the tit for tat kind of game went on. It's difficult to keep track, and also by different categories. So right now, I think that there is a basically that there's for the China import from China is maintained at around 125 and there's only 145%. Then that's why a lot of orders from China pretty much stopped because it's just too expensive.
Right.
So, but now I think that there were concerns about electronics and also computers because it will affect the consumers tremendously. So therefore, I think there is a exemption for now. Such that your iPhone will not be too expensive. So I think right now for the electronics is maybe around 50%. So depending on the categories.
Okay. Now, given your expertise in Asian markets, how do you see the CHIPS Act and the semiconductor export controls affecting US and Chinese manufacturing capabilities?
Don't know where to start? Join our free course. Tired of working alone? Join 4,000 plus members. Have questions or want to talk to someone who's done it before? Join our free webinar. And all of this plus more is included inside of federalhelpcenter.com. Join today for free to get started.
For the CHIPS Act, well, that was the Biden's administration's initiative. So that was around $50 billion investment in the US with the intention to bring more jobs back home to produce more semiconductors. And he's been working slowly, but it's working. I think Intel is building up plants in Ohio and Arizona. And also the Taiwanese TSMC is also expanding plants in Arizona as well. Then also that it's additional incentive for Samsung. Now, President Trump didn't quite like it because it's for whatever reasons, and now it pivots. They don't call CHIPS Act anymore. It's called Accelerator. It's accelerate the reshoring, the getting the jobs back. So, but to his credit, this kind of programs is still continuing. So basically, that is the Intel, Samsung, and TSMC continue to expand, but President Trump is also trying to cut the red tape, which is very crucial. Because getting the incentive out is one thing, but getting all these companies to comply with all these regulations, it could take years, like EPA, like the Labor Act. So there are many regulations. So he is just saying that we need to cut the red tapes to help this company to really expand the operation in the US more quickly. So therefore, this is called Accelerator now.
Okay. Okay. And you believe that that's a necessary part of the process to happen in order to make this a reality?
Absolutely. I can tell you that I know some of your audience is small business.
Yep.
Let me give you one example. I was invited to work on a project for NASA, which is a dream job. And I told them that doesn't matter whether you pay me or don't pay me. I said I would like to work for this project just for the sake of it, because I said that NASA is really inspirational.
Right.
Then it's a small project, but then they sent me a contract, the compliance. It was 85 pages long.
Mm,
And I told them that I don't know how to fill the forms because there are many acronyms, there are many terminology. I have no idea. It's my first time.
right.
So I contacted them. I said, look, I really want to help you. I really want, whether you pay me or don't pay me, I don't, but I need to comply with that. So they sent a person to help me to fill the form
Mm,
because that form it's the same if you do a project for them for $100 to $1 billion project. I
mm,
said, this is insane. Therefore, for small business, if you're running a small business, how do you have time to fill an 85 pages long form, let's say for a few $100 contract? It's not going to happen.
yeah.
So therefore, I think that the US governments need to rethink. Maybe for big projects, it's more extensive, and also maybe you need to go through some more compliance. But small jobs, you have to really make it easier. So I think that is where I think cutting the red tape could go a long way.
I like that idea. It's interesting because we actually have programs that can make it easier, but I believe that the staff and the people are not trained on how to utilize them. So, for example, the government does have what's called a letter contract that they could give you, right, for these smaller awards, but I don't think that the workforce is trained on how to use all these different vehicles and um, programs that exist. So I think that
Yeah,
that's
so I do not know. Maybe that was during COVID period of time. Maybe they all work from home, so they may not know. So the lady was very helpful. She said, "Oh, I understand it's very overwhelming. So let me help you to how to fill the form." So I think that they even on the website, it was not clear how to fill the form. So if someone is not experienced for the business owner, and also someone not experienced in the government office, that's where things fall apart.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. On the supply chain side, reshoring, we're seeing significant friendshoring and reshoring efforts in American manufacturing. What are some of the realistic timeframes and challenges for companies attempting to shift production away from China?
Well, I think that in terms of the idea of shifting away from China has been ongoing for quite some time. Now, this is actually, you can go back to maybe 15 years ago. Actually, there was a initiative called China Plus One. Okay. Now, that idea was not started by Americans. It was started by the Chinese.
Okay.
Now, then the question is, what does it mean? They were thinking that the wages, the labor workforce in China is getting too expensive. I know it's still cheap by American standard,
Right.
but relative to other Asian countries, it's getting more expensive because the double digit increase in the labor costs. So
Mm,
it's much more expensive than Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Indonesia, you name it, India, right? So then the Chinese manufacturers were saying, well, it's not sustainable. We cannot keep on double digits wage increase for the workers. So we need to figure how to diversify ourselves. So they are thinking that they should actually shifting their production from China to other Asian ASEAN countries. So they already start doing that for a long time. So that's why they already have factories setting up in Vietnam and Thailand and Indonesia, right, for some time. Then the Trump round one came around. He said, "Oh, we don't want we're over dependent on China. We need to shift it." That's why Chinese manufacturers already set up the infrastructure to absorb the friend shoring in Vietnam, in Cambodia, and because bear in mind, Chinese diaspora they are everywhere. They
Right.
already have the contact. They already have the connections in Asia already. So then, in case they have already set up the factories there, it was actually it was not a difficult pivot for them to transition. All right. So that is the friend shoring. Then the nearshoring, US is well, we not like to really maybe produce a product near United States. So therefore, Mexico and Canada would be the perfect neighbors to produce that. So in particular, in Mexico, the labor workforce is much cheaper. It's just a few dollars an hour. So that's why that is actually a lot of manufacturing operations have really boomed in Mexico, especially the northern parts of Mexico near the border of Texas and Arizona. So that's where the car manufacturers they're setting up their plants like Ford, GM, Volkswagen, whatnot in the northern part of Mexico. Then the case they can use the nearshoring and also using the USMCA before NAFTA is USMCA agreement to produce assemble some of the cars like GM, Ford, Nissan, and Toyota, and then do the final assembly and ship it back to the US without paying the import tariffs, right? So that is been ongoing for quite some time. Now, because of this nearshoring initiative, Chinese also setting up factories in Mexico as well. So now there are a lot of factories like furniture factory. They are actually assemble the furniture for the American markets, but it's owned by the Chinese company.
So they're assembled in our neighboring countries, but they're owned by the Chinese manufacturers.
Well, if you think about global business, for the Chinese manufacturers, they also think about global business as well. So they do have the global supply chain, if
Right.
you will,
Right.
right?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so what about, I know you mentioned that the CHIPS Act is working. It's going to take some time. Do you have any idea of realistic timeframes on that?
Huh. In terms of reshoring, I think that's the reshoring, the semiconductor industry is a important initiative for two reasons. One, it is a critical product
Right.
because without the chips, many of our products will not work. And also, if over reliance on other countries, if a pandemic or some other man-made events occur, then it will really disrupt our supply chain. We have seen that during the COVID. So therefore, we should have some manufacturing capabilities in the US because it's a critical element. This one, I'm in full agreement with the Biden administration to select this one.
Okay.
Second, this industry is a more appropriate for reshoring because it's not labor intensive because in my opinion, and also based on the survey, not too many Americans like to work in the factories screwing the little screws, like Lutnick said.
Right. Right.
It's not happening. So, but I think that for semiconductor manufacturing, a lot of processes, they're automated, electronic, just operate a little machine. So I think people don't mind to do that. All right. So I think that one is also high value add, highly automated, and also highly important. So it is a right product to reshore. Now, but then there's a problem. The problem is that we don't have enough engineers because for 4 decades, we don't produce that much. So therefore, many of our younger generations, they don't study engineering because there are no jobs. So what they end up doing is they're doing MBA and run the business, clicking Uber, Meta, and all this, but no one's actually producing anything, right? So it will take time for the university or vocational school to train the skilled labor such that to fulfill this kind of engineering jobs. So that would take, I'm afraid it will take a few years to actually get back to full scale. So that's why TSMC, the Taiwanese companies, they could not hire enough engineers to do the job. So therefore, they make a special exceptions to for the State Department to give the visas for the Taiwanese engineers to work in the U.S. for a short period of time because we just don't have enough trained labor. So because we're training the different type of labor force. So I think that if we are serious about reshoring, I think the university and also community college also need to retool, retrain some of our younger generations.
Do you know how many engineers were short? Is there a number?
I do not know the exact number, but I think that the trend is increasing. And also on top of that, we also need people trained in AI, also in drones, in 3D printing. There are many other jobs that are available, and yet those jobs are not filled.
Are we talking about hundreds of thousands or millions?
Oh, at least hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Yes. That's why I think US compared to China, there is a big problem. They produce 5 times more engineers than
Mm,
us. So this is what the Apple CEO had an article in Wall Street Journal to explain why he cannot bring the Apple iPhone production back in the US. Right?
mm,
He said, if I need someone as a like a injection molding engineers or maybe a factory engineers, industrial engineers, he said in China, I can really have a meeting. I can fill multiple football fields.
wow.
In the US, if I call for that, you only fill one room.
Right.
That is the problem. How can you compete?
Mm,
That's one. Even I said, even if I get the factory going, get the engineers hired, where do I get the workers? If I get the workers, the quality will not be as good, and also it costs. This is his quote: $3,500 to assemble the phone, to make one phone. Then on top, you add the profit margin, you total $5,000 to $6,000. Which person will buy an iPhone for $6,000? Okay, so that's why I think the Americans need to realize that this is a reality, right? So if you want a cheaper product, we have benefited a lot for the last 4 decades. For your computers, for your iPhones, for your TV, so cheap. If it's assembled in the US, it's not going to happen.
wow. Wow. That's a no, I understand. I understand. Um, how is increasing focus on national security affecting technology supply chains? So we mentioned semiconductors. What about advanced computing?
In terms of technology developments, well, I think that AI, US is still leading a little bit, but China is catching up. US, we have OpenAI, we have Meta's Llama, we have Google Gemini, but in China, they have DeepSeek is really a shock and awe moment, and also Alibaba, they have the Qwen is also catching up very fast. So in terms of performance, getting close. Now, the second one, in terms of chip manufacturing, US still had the lead because of the certain technology and also that we have access to the super ultra extra ultraviolet light equipment from ASML from the Netherlands. So we have all these techniques and also skill labor and also in terms of equipment. Now, but China is catching up. China has many engineers. They are all already developing nanometer chips made by Huawei. Is actually they catch up very quickly. So the gap is closing in. On top of that, China retaliate is have the export ban control on the rare earth minerals,
Right.
and that will also make it difficult for the US to scale up the high-end chip manufacturing. Now, in terms of quantum computing, both countries are catching up. US is still leading a little bit because IBM and this is really doing very super quantum computing. But I think China has, well, as I mentioned before, they have more scientists, they have more engineers, so they're 5 times more. So all it takes is just a small percentage to do better. So I think that time window is shortening. So I think that US is still leading, but I think that the time window is shortening unless we have to rethink about how we do things.
Let me ask you a question. I've heard a stat, and this is not related to supply chain or tariffs. But I heard a stat that more women are graduating from colleges than men. Is that the same at UCLA?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of the gender equity,
Right.
the future is woman. Well,
Right.
it's a reality
Right.
because right now there's a major problem when you talk men versus women. I think they've been studied by many scientists and also psychologists. I think the men and boys are in big trouble in the world.
Mm,
Right now, in terms in school, girls are doing better.
right.
In college, the 60% of the college student are female, and also in graduate school. So female are more willing to work harder, study harder, and try harder, right?
Mm,
Then what happened to the boys and men? Now, the men studies, I think that I can relate I can observe this for firsthand. I've been at UCLA for 40 years. Even in my class, I found the female students, they work harder, they try harder. I think it's natural because I think that as the field that is underdog for generations,
right.
and you feel you need to try harder to prove yourself, and also they're more focused. They're more focused because they want to compete, they want to do better, they want to prove themselves. Now, for boys and men, before is really the dominant workforce. Is say,
Right.
oh, we just compete among men and all this. But there's a problem. Time has changed. In my generations, I had no computer. I didn't even start out with calculators. Now, what do the boys have? What do they do? So just observe what do they do. Well, there's online games. They spend hours.
Yeah.
Social media, porn, free porn.
Right.
Okay. Girls are not interested in those things. They do social media, but in terms of free porn, they get bored very quickly. And also that in terms of online games, they think it's stupid, just shoot and kill, right? All day long.
Right. Right.
So I think that unless that we train the boys from school to engage them in a more constructive, more educational activities, I think that the world is in trouble. This is not just US, but I
Right.
think the whole world. So I think this need to be discussed, and also the parents and teachers. Parents also need to take the responsibilities. Don't just give your kids just the cell phone or the tablets, then leave them alone. Actually, you are not helping them. You need to be with them, to engage them, to inspire them, to motivate them, to do something positive, and also how to be a better human being. Because looking at those porn, looking at those video games are not going to develop your boy to become a better man. So I think that this is something I want to put out there.
No, I think that's super important because obviously, part of what I've seen, even with Elon Musk saying that I read on Twitter or X now, was that we're having low birth rates, right? And so that can also hurt us from being able to have enough labor to do work and also to maintain our control and power.
Absolutely true. But you think about it, for female, they feel that is they have really have the burden to take care of the family, the raise child. They did not have the upward mobility. So now, with better education, with more opportunities, they want to try it. They want to do it.
Right.
And many of them, if they want to have their own career, well, unless a better man came along, but they're in short supply. Then they say, well, why do I want to get married to have a child when I still have to do double labor? uh, at work and at home.
Right.
Then they say, well, maybe I don't need it because now with technology, they can get a sperm donor, they can raise a child on their own, they don't need married and all this. But some they don't want to do that, right? Or surrogate mother.
Sure.
So that's why that I think that we'll also need to educate again boys how to become a better man, how to become a better father, how to become a contributor in a household. I think that time has come. I think we need to reflect and also to share the responsibilities. So to make a better household, better family, such that we can build a better future. Because right now, the birth rate going down, especially for developed economies,
Right.
not just US, worldwide.
Right. Worldwide. Yes.
The birth rate is actually lowest in Korea, in South Korea, in Singapore and Hong Kong. because the most of the workers are female. The actual females that work all the time. They don't have time to raise a family.
Wait, most of the
Right?
workers are female there?
Yes,
Wow. Well, that's what,
you'd be
that's where I was
surprised.
leading. I think we're gonna have the same thing here. Most of the workers gonna become female.
Yes, so they don't want to marry couch potato, watching video games, right? So that's why that we need to also get the audience to think about how can we develop a better voice, better man, better father, better husband, such that we can have a better balance of the society. If we keep that way, I think that that is would be a problem. In terms of a lot of men, they may not be able to find a partner, will affect their mental health. Then we actually create a bigger society problem, right?
Right.
So I think that for everyone's sake, I think that schools, universities, parents need to take the responsibilities because you cannot expect the government to solve this kind of problem.
No.
We all have to take on the burden to address the issue. There is an issue worldwide.
Yeah, no, I've seen it, and because that's what I've read and understood is that we've been filling our gap of the low birth rates with immigration, right? And so now that we have an immigration policy that discourages immigration, how are we going to fill the labor shortage?
Well, I think that is a problem. Without immigrants, we do have a problem. Well, we should reflect that United States was built on immigration.
Right, right, right.
So I think I'm in California. Without immigrants, we have no food to eat, we have no services, right? So let's be a little bit more grateful to the immigrants who bring in a lot of value to the US. Now, without immigrants, maybe without enough workforce. So that's where automation and AI robotics come into play, right? But then there's a problem. If we automate too many things, what do people do? So that is another problem. If you look at the ports, I studied the ports in the United States, Long Beach and Los Angeles port operations, the productivity is one of the lowest in the world. It's ranked out of the top 400, it's the bottom, right? Because we're not automated, very little automation. Because the union, they don't want automated because they worry about may displace the jobs.
Right.
Right? So we have high cost, low productivity. Then how do you compete, right? Now, but on the other hand, if automate like car manufacturing all this, then we don't have to enough work. We don't need that many workers. What do the people do?
Hmm. That sounds like a very challenging problem we're facing.
Absolutely. So, but I think that's whether we like it or not, it is coming our way because the AI and advanced robotics, they can do many tasks that human can do. So unless we start training our humans become smarter, can do more high value added work, the basic routine kind of jobs can be replaced by machine. So for example, in Chipotle, they make the tortilla using machines. Yes, they don't need humans. All right. So that is well, even cleaning the floor. Now you're a robot to mop the floor, to clean the floor, right? So in the future, the many operations can be done automatically.
So do you see AI playing a role in like managing the complexities of reconfiguring the supply chains? I know we talked about we mentioned like Chipotle, but what about um, some of the more complex supply chain issues? I know, for example, right now they said that AI could do simple tasks and they have generative AI. Then I forget what the other one is, but where it does like the thinking and being able to do the full task without human.
Right, that's called general artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So basically, AI can do many things already. It's not just basic tasks. It can using advanced sensors to collect data, like using in terms of visual and audio and scanning. So they can actually observe a lot of data. Then using the data, they can do better forecasting, better planning, better coordination among different suppliers, and also in the future could be autonomous vehicles to ship things around, and also that they can have processing paperwork more efficiently. Because right now, going through the port, a lot of manual paperwork, checking, inspection, and all this. But in the future, everything can be automated. So therefore, we streamline the operations much more efficiently, right? So these are the planning, the brain. So in that case, the human can only click to approve or not approve, right? They don't really need to go through all the single step of the paperwork because the machine, the AI algorithm can help them to check. They can check everything and say, Eric, this container is good to go. Do you approve or not? These are the checklist, right? Before you had to do it by yourself.
Right.
Right. So therefore, we really reduce the need for human interventions. Then you can, in the case, you can only do the final approval. This is already happening, Eric, in the workflow processes. Right now, in our workplace, many of our requests in terms of buying equipment, getting approval, getting different layers, is everything is automated. So in the case, like DocuSign, is basically in the future, they have a DocuSign with AI to actually check all the compliance. Then the final approval will be streamlined operations very quickly.
Wow, nice, nice. Let's talk about the economic impact. What about the tariffs and the trade restrictions affecting inflation and consumer prices in the U.S. market?
Wow, that is a big question. It's been discussed in the press for decades, actually. So the tariffs right now, we are really in uncharted waters. So if the during April 2nd, the Liberation Day, when President Trump announced all those tariffs against maybe 90 plus countries, it was shock and awe because it's never happened so many with so many different tariffs all at once.
Right.
So that's why the stock markets really was shaken for a couple of weeks. Now, the reason is that is if that was really put in place, the tariff would be the highest for over 100 years. Okay. Now, if history repeats itself, we're in big trouble because that was happening during the Great Depression that actually triggered the economic downturn. But I hope that it doesn't get to that way. So therefore, I think that after 1 week, I think that President Trump's advisor asked him to give a 90-day pause because a lot of the treasury bonds they were not selling as planned. So that means that the whole world markets they have doubts about the U.S. financial system. Therefore, he did pull the trigger to have a 90-day pause. Now, what will happen with after 90 days? I don't know. They need to rethink how to engage the tariffs with other countries. But it's very complicated issues. Right now, even with the Chinese 145%, things are not happening. For some of the products, they just stop the orders because you're not going to pay more than double, right?
Right.
So they had to shift to other countries, but then there's a problem because you don't know whether those 90 days pause tariff will kick back in. So that we still don't know, right? So that's why the companies, they're still not sure where to shift the product production, right? If you ship it back to US cannot really build the factory that fast. Also, for iPhones, maybe you can have humans do that. There was one article in Wall Street Journal about Nike. Nike tried for over 15 years to bring the jobs back to the United States to make the shoes in the US. But Americans, they don't like sewing shoes. And they try to see if there's any way to automate the process. As it turned out, it's extremely difficult. They could not do it really properly with the quality. Why? If you do the assembly operation for really rigid parts, like screws, like chips, robot can do it more easily. But for material that is soft, pliable, bendable, human is the most efficient way to do things because we can have touch and feel. For example, if you ask a robot to grab a marshmallow, they will have a difficult time. Okay? To grab a piece of rock, no problem, right? So therefore, for apparel industry like sewing clothes, how many Americans like to sew clothes and sewing buttons, right? Or making shoes. So therefore, it's very difficult. So in that case, reshoring is not practical. And also your shoe would be $500. Okay, who's going to buy? So then they have to shift to other countries. But which country? Because you don't know the tariffs. They cannot really set because right now the tariffs change by the day, if not by the hour. So how do you plan? So right now they're still waiting for what uh, the next round the tariff is going to be. So no one knows. So that is a problem. So I think right now, I think that is we in a holding pattern. No one is taking off, no one's landing. So I think that need to be settled soon. Otherwise, I think the economy could be a uh, a problem. So I think that inflation is unfortunately will be coming up because it doesn't matter where you produce, the cost will not come down. And let me give you an example. If you import direct from China, the price go up. Then the importers, like the manufacturer, they have to pass some of the cost to the consumers. The price has to go up. No other choice. The other one, okay, maybe you shift it from maybe shift to Vietnam. Right now is pause 10%, but then it may go up. Vietnam is willing to work with the US to drop down to zero. Suppose zero. Okay, good enough? Suppose zero. Good. But then for Vietnam, how do they produce your product? Actually, most of the components in Vietnam, they still rely on China. Then they have to buy the product from China, the parts, the components from China, ship it from China to Vietnam. They do the assembly. Labor cost is cheap. Then import to US, zero tariff. Good enough? But then all the shipping back and forth and all these things, the cost will not go down.
Mm.
So ultimately, the consumers end up paying the price. Okay? So then the question is that this is my biggest concern. There's been studied by the economists for a long time. When you have this kind of higher tariffs, actually the population will be affected the most at the low income group. Then the question is why? Why the low income group will be affected more severely than the rich class? The main reason the rich class, well, the percentage of the income to spend on clothing items, toys, back to school supplies, the percentage of income spent on that is very little. But for the households, for the low income household, the percentage of the income spent on these items are high because they need to buy the back to school and all this. But most of them used to make in China or the dollar they buy in Dollar Tree and store, right? So I think that once imported, they have to pay high tariffs. They pass on the consumers. This will affect the low income group even more. So that is the biggest problem.
Wow. A lot to unpack there, a lot to think about. And you've been thinking about these issues for many, many years, decades now.
Yes, yes. Well, unfortunately, through history, whenever the country is in problem, in trouble, it's the poor people get suffer more.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. But
No,
we need to be prepared and also maybe need to budget our expenditure more wisely at this moment because the future is rather uncertain.
do you think that the other countries like Vietnam, India, the ones that you mentioned, are they necessarily benefiting from the U.S.-China trade tensions? Are they benefiting at all?
Absolutely. So I think right now the biggest winner, I think that's was has been Vietnam, but now India is also trying to do more trading with the US. They're going to negotiate with the US, same as Malaysia and all this. So it will affect China negatively, but then China can shift some of the product to these countries. So right now, JD Vance is declaring that maybe India is a friendlier country for US to trade with, which is a possibility. It could be a good potential for India as well. But all this being said, it shows us one thing. reshoring many production back to US, it is not feasible, also not practical, and also not economic.
I interviewed someone a week ago, and they used the term NIMBY, and it says that a lot of people, when we talk about putting a manufacturing facility, they say not in my backyard. So even if you say that you want it, you don't want it in your backyard. You want it in someone else's backyard in the U.S. So I thought that was interesting that a lot of us, and I know that we had the same problem in Miami where we have a homeless problem, and we said, okay, we're going to build a homeless shelter. They go, well, I don't want it in my community. We want to fix the problem, but we don't want to fix it where I live. We don't want to put the shelter in this community or that community. So they said no one wants. Yes, they want it solved, but they don't want it in their to impact their community.
I think this one we need to change the mindset. I think people they have a misconception about manufacturing plants. Things have changed a lot. For manufacturing plants, bear in mind, it's actually bring economic growth in the region as well. So I think they will bring jobs because there's spillover effect. If you have factories, then people may want to move there to live near to the factories, and also they need more shops, more supermarkets, more other services like banks and all this. It will create jobs to grow the economy. We've seen that in South Carolina, right? So when Boeing and also BMW moved to South Carolina, it's really improved
Right.
the economic growth of those states as well. So
Right.
I think that not in my backyard is a misconception. Factory these days can be very clean and also could be look at Tesla
Yeah.
in Fremont, right, in California. So it's not necessarily a bad problem, but I think that the community say, hey, it will bring jobs and also that maybe bring more security because when there's economic growth, in that case, people they have a better stable jobs, stable environment. It can be a good thing. So I think that it's not in my backyard. They worry about and may affect the value of my home. It's not true. So you look at in the state of some study, Trader Joe's. Wherever Trader Joe's open the store, all the nearby properties value go up. All right. So that's one thing. Second, is the manufacturer is not dirty anymore because there are many compliance they have to do. So and also will bring prosperity in the neighborhood as well. So I think that this is something we need to rethink because if you go back to in time, many of the factories they are not the one that you think this is not a agriculture or the butcher shop. This could be high tech. So depending what type of factories you're talking about.
Right. That's a good point. If you've never lived near one of these facilities, historically, you assume that it's polluting the environment, polluting the water, and so that's people's concerns.
But I think time has changed, and also there's their compliance as well.
Right. No, that makes sense. We've covered a lot of things here, and what are some things that I haven't brought up that you think that we should cover before we close out?
Well, I think that we're facing a lot of uncertainties in the future, and people are getting nervous because we don't know what future holds. But I think that when you're dealing with uncertainty, I think that we need to stay calm. Don't jump on react to the news immediately. So I think that maybe it's time for us to reflect. What is the most important thing we need to have? So I think right now, I think that we need to say what is the most important is care for each other, loving family, friends. Those are more important. Now, for the material goods, yes, of course, it's good to have,
Right.
but we can live with less. So I think that when the price may go up, it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? No, think about it. If your phone is still working, extend the life of the phone, it's okay.
Right.
And also clothes, if you think about before the Second World War, wear the clothes longer. You don't need all this ultra fast fashion. So I think that if we depend less on this kind of material goods has been proven. And replace it with a loving relationship with friends and family, you'll be happier. You need all these material goods because you need to fill the void, because there's emptiness in you. So I think that I'm older enough. I've seen people, they've done a lot of study. At the end of the day, what counts is a relationship. The relationship is virtually free. Just knock on your neighbor's door, just say hi. It will not kill you. It will make you feel better. So I think those are the free activities you can do. And hey, can we take a walk? Would you like to take a walk? So I think that that is something we should remind ourselves. We have lived, I think since COVID, we have learned to live in isolation. Now, maybe it's opportunity for us to rethink, to re-engage our family, our friends, our neighbors, such that we say that, hey, you're not alone. We don't need all these material goods. You need that because your soul is empty. So just keep in mind, maybe go to church, do something. So I think there are many activities we can do without the material goods. Once we're not rely on so much material goods, we are free. So we actually bond ourselves. Don't let all these material goods to tie you down. Set you free.
No, I like that. I agree with you. You know, it's interesting. I'm here in DC, and I'm staying with a friend, right? And because of the connection, not because the saving the money, but because we have a friendship from middle school. And if I were to stay in a hotel, between work and schedule, we would probably never see each other. And so you're right, that connection feels really good and warm, that you have, you said, that connection with the friendship where we could go to dinner, we could go to lunch, you know, we can do things. And even if we just, you know, see each other in passing, it has a connection with someone that is in a community that you're familiar with, in an area that you may be so unfamiliar with. So I agree with that fully. Yeah, I think we've all kind of went off, got our own places, moved away, and you know, over the weekend, we had a lot of family over to the house, and it felt really good to cook for everyone, to come together. Even things like helping out in the kitchen. What can I help you with? What can we work in? And you're right, it definitely fills those voids.
Good.
So thank you. Is there anything that you think that the government can do to better support companies? I know we mentioned that we've got a lot of issues with bringing back engineers. Uh, is there anything that the government can do to help support us in some of these things that you've mentioned today?
Well, I think that many executives, they've been setting up meetings to meet with President Trump. So I think that the business know that things are getting a bit complicated. So I hope that President Trump will have a open mind to listen to the concerns. But I think that in terms of citizens, I think that they have their voices already been heard if we turn on the TV. So I think that that is something is really depends on the White House, how they want to engage uh, the the business community, also engage the citizens. So I think that this could be an opportunity for the governments to work together with the community, such that to build America as a strong country.
Dr. Tang, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you today. I appreciate you. This has been a great conversation. I know people are going to get a lot of value from this.
Thank you for having me.
You know, thank you.